You're watching Around Town with Henry Dormann.
Around Town is sponsored by Chemung Canal Trust Company. They're really nice people. Trust is their middle name. Service is their motto. And I like them a lot, and that's why I bank there. If you ever come by to look me up, I'll be in the vault. Safe place. I dressed up for the occasion. You wouldn't believe this. Now, you and I have gone to some crazy places around, but here is something really unusual. Take your pencils and paper, because this is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and we came here to Al Capone's cell in the federal prison. Would you believe me here? I had to dress up for this. This is Sean Kelley, who runs the place, and we are sitting in Al Capone's cell. The last cell he went before he was released. He walked out of these gates and then died in his home in Florida.
Actually, he went from here to Alcatraz. So the last cell that he was in, I believe, was in Alcatraz. So this is actually his first cell. The first time he was ever convicted of anything was here in Philadelphia for carrying a concealed deadly weapon, which is the kind of crime that you don't expect to get a long prison sentence for. But the judge here in Philadelphia said, we're going to make an example of this famous Chicago bootlegger, and we're going to give him the maximum sentence, 1 year in prison. Sent him off to the city prison, and immediately the prisons treated this celebrity like a long-lost brother, and they let Al Capone decorate his cell with fine furniture and paintings on the walls, and he had a relatively luxurious stay here. That said,
the way it was with these lamps
this is
furniture
more or less the way it was. Yeah, we don't have any photographs, but this is one of the most popular stops for visitors. People love coming to Eastern State Penitentiary and getting a chance to see inside of a real prison.
Is he terrific? Because he really's got me sold here. and he's such a charming fellow. If you can't, try to see him if you come. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine.
You're open when?
We're open 7 days a week, year-round. We only close 4 days out of the year. So we're open from 10 to 5. And the building is something that people in America don't see very often. It's our equivalent of like a ruined castle in Europe. You know, the building closed in 1971. The last inmates left the building, and they closed that front door one last time, January of '71, this time to keep people out. And they believed that they were going to tear the building down or reuse it as a prison or reuse it as condominiums or something. But over time, people here in Philadelphia realized what an extraordinary treasure they had in Eastern State Penitentiary.
And it's haunted.
And it's haunted. People have said from the very beginning. As a matter of fact, the officers who worked here back in the 1940s, we found this old copy of Life magazine about an escape. Slick Willie Sutton, you ever hear of Slick Willie Sutton? Slick Willie Sutton escaped from a tunnel here in 1945.
He went to the banks because that's where the money was.
He went to the banks, he robbed banks because that's where the money was, right. So visitors love hearing that story too, about Willie Sutton's tunnel escape. We know now that Willie Sutton had very little to do with that tunnel escape, but he did go through it, and he was the name that everyone knew. Anyway, in the article about Willie Sutton's escape in Life magazine, they interviewed some officers, and they said they always thought that Eastern State Penitentiary was haunted. And this was back when there were actually prisoners inside of the place. So I don't personally believe in ghosts, but I do believe if there are ghosts anywhere in the world, they're at Eastern State Penitentiary. There's something about this building that makes you think of the supernatural, makes you think about time, makes you think about what happens. You know, there were so many people who lived decades and died, most of them of old age, but of other purposes, other causes too. Thousands and thousands of people lived inside this building for decades, and it makes you think about the supernatural.
It's interesting in this particular room. Thanks for the microphone. He's terrific, you see. He's taken over now. Sean Kelley, remember the name. This place, this is kind of a vaulted ceiling. If you sold this as a condominium, you get a bundle for this. This is very nice living. He had a cot here and a toilet in the corner and break front. The building was designed to look like a church, and so it has skylights. There's more than 1,000 skylights in the building. All of the original cells are lit with daylight. It has these beautiful arched ceilings all throughout the building. It really is a beautiful place. That said, if you lived here and you couldn't leave, I think you might feel a little differently, or you might appreciate that it's beautiful, but it's still a prison cell. Well, federal prisons have a reputation of being very, very well kept. very clean. I went to the federal prison in Lewisburg one time, and we were walking along the halls, immaculate. And I was walking with the warden, and somebody held open the door for us. And it was one of the inmates.
Yeah.
And the warden, as we walked through, he says, "You know who that was?"
Who was it?
Jimmy Hoffa.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
You get all these stories here.
Wow, that's really something. Federal prisons typically have more money and they're run in a very professional way. But the vast majority of people in prison in the United States are in state prisons. And so state prisons are very different. All over the country, different states have different standards for their state prisons. And so that's where most American prisoners are. So the southern prisons tend to be a little bit less well funded. In Maine and Vermont, people in prison can actually vote. So it's different all over the place. Pennsylvania is somewhere in the middle. But
if people want to come to see here, what should they look for aside from what you've told us so far? When should they come? What are the hours? And is there a charge? Or will you put them up overnight?
No, we will not put them up overnight. We're going to ask them to leave. We're open from 10 to 5, 7 days a week. You definitely want to see Al Capone's cell. Our main audio tour is narrated by Steve Buscemi from Boardwalk Empire. And that main audio tour takes you through
a marketing program.
Oh yeah, we're working on it. We need to. You know, we only opened the site in 1994, and it's been abandoned for a long time. So we really need to raise some money and raise the visibility. So we try to really listen to our visitors and try to think about what will make their experience most meaningful and most enjoyable. And so, of course, people want to hear about Al Capone and see his cell. They want to hear about Slick Willie Sutton and the tunnel escape. These days we spend a lot of time talking about what's happening in prisons today as well. And so not everyone wants to learn about this, but if you want to learn about what prisons are like today, we have a really ambitious new exhibit that talks about how prisons have changed since 1971 when this building closed. And so whether you want to have a conversation with your family about our criminal justice system, or you want to see the home of a famous gangster, or the escape tunnel dug by a famous bank robber, we try to cater to all those experiences.
Come to visit the place. You can get all kinds of information by contacting who?
Well, our website is probably the best way, which is
www.easternstate.org.
But you can also just give us a phone call, which is 215-236-3300. And that's our main information line.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I am now going to take a nap on Al Capone's cot. looks very nice. We'll see you. I'm very busy at looking at all this, and you got a lot of extra room here.
We do have a lot of extra room, so plenty of room. Bring the family.
You can stay over. No, you can't. They won't let you stay overnight. But it'd be fine, kind of fun to stay overnight in the federal prison. He said, little knowing that probably wouldn't at all. But anyway, I'm going to have a rest on Al Capone's bed. We'll see you soon.
Around Town with Henry Dormann will return in a moment.
Truly, this is home. I know that's our slogan here, but this is my home. So, I mean, I do care about it. My family's here, my friends are here. I went to school here. I think I take a lot of pride in covering stories. When I go out and talk, whether it's about, budget cuts or, a new store opening that's directly impacting taxes my family pays, or, the quality of life that my family and friends have here. This is home.
Life, it never stops moving, getting from here to there, managing long hours at work, juggling a busy home. You need a bank that keeps up. That's Chemung Canal Trust Company. Bank online, bank with our mobile app, deposit a check with your smartphone, open an account at Chemung Canal, and bank with us anywhere, anytime. Chemung Canal Trust Company, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Don't wait. Communicate. Make your emergency plan today.
We now return to Around Town with Henry Dormann.
Today, there's a treat. When you come to New York City, they've got restaurants coming out of your ears in New York City, but there are two restaurants that are owned by this distinguished fellow who has put together something unusual. One of them is in the Rockefeller Townhouse, and the other one is on the West Side, and is already a gem in New York City. And he is one of the most distinguished restaurateurs in the city. He's in and out of here, but he's here a lot of the time, so you could ask for him. And you're going to tell us the phone numbers, why you did getting in the restaurant business is a very difficult thing in New York City, but he's done it. And he's got the most successful 2 restaurants in town. But the interesting part is that he always has room for new friends. Now, tell me, how did you get to do this? And this is the old Rockefeller townhouse.
Correct.
Nelson Rockefeller. In fact, we shouldn't say this, but he actually died in this house.
Yes, everybody knows the story, but nobody talks about that.
And he was found in the arms of his lady friend.
Yes.
But nobody talks about it. So we won't say anything about it either. Shh, don't say anything.
Well, let me say that I've been in this business since I was 14 years old. I started to work in Capri, the Gem Island outside, across the street from Naples, and then I worked a little bit all over the world. I worked in England, in France, in Spain, in Greece, in Japan, in Germany, in Switzerland. I moved in the United States 32 years ago. I started to work with Mickey Mouse at Epcot Center.
Mickey Mouse?
Yes, at Epcot Center.
Nice partner to have.
Yes, well, I still am very proud to say that me and Mickey Mouse were very good buddies. Then after a year I moved to New York and I started to work as a waiter on the Upper East Side. Then I became manager for one of the most famous restaurant in the 80s, late 80s, which was Beach on the 54th Street. And then I opened up my first venture in the Museum of Modern Art. We took over the food operation, the cafeteria, the restaurant, the bar, and the catering. In 2001, after the tragedy of the Twin Towers, we opened up. After a week, we opened up Il Gattopardo across the street on 33 West 54th Street. Of course, you can imagine the first 6 months. I remember that I used to stay outside the restaurant, and for hours I couldn't see no one car passing by, no one person passing by. But we keep holding, you know, we work very, very hard, and the city after the first 6 months started to blow again. We saw more business, and since then has been always growing up our business. We opened up about 5 years ago the Leopard at des Artistes in the iconic Hotel des Artistes. It used to be the former Café des Artistes, which is one of the most beautiful rooms in New York.
And one of the most unusual array of paintings.
Correct. We have these murals painted by Chandler Christie from 1924 to 1934 that they surround all the rooms. Actually, something very funny I would like to say was that when we finished the construction, well, before that we hired a company suggested by the Museum of Modern Art to do the restoration of the murals. And when we finished completely the construction of the restaurant, we were ready to open up. We had the tablecloths set up, etc. These two ladies in the late 60s, they come over to restore the murals. And they were with a little brush, a little sponge, they scaffolding the murals, and they were taking time. 1 week passed by. I was paying the rent, I was paying the staff. We needed to make some revenue. So we took this, let's say, fact in marketing tools. So what we did 4 or 5 parties to celebrate our opening. We did the restorator on the scaffolding cleaning up the murals. And it was quite interesting because it was this interaction between our customer, our guest, and the two ladies cleaning up the murals. Once we finished to restore the murals, the board of the Hotel des Artistes, they called me up because they didn't believe that we just restored, because the color, they were so vivid, so bright. The mural, they never been so beautiful. And they thought we painted on top. Of course, we try to use the best ingredient we can, because we do believe that Italian cuisine is a cuisine of a product, of ingredients. And to make Italian cuisine, you have to have the best, freshest ingredient. Most of the ingredients product that we get, they are direct from Italy. We import ourselves, or we have a company that import on the daily basis from Italy, like the mozzarella di bufala from Cilento, the culatello, the anduia, the puntarelle.
Where do you get the twinkle in your eye? Because you have the spirit here.
Yeah, thank you.
You really love this place. You must love all of them.
Of course, I love all of them. Every night I pass by the Leopard at Desertist, and every night I sit on my table and I look at the room and I say, how beautiful is this room. We try to keep the spirit of the Café Desertist, but of course again with the contemporary eye. And I'm very proud to say that after almost 100 years, the Café Desertist finally speaks Italian.
And you have 3 restaurants. Where's the third one?
It's a few doors down where it used to be the Gattopardo, and it's called Mozzarella Vino, which is a more casual, I like to say Italian slow food, where the ingredients, the products are very important. Of course, mozzarella, which is our most important for us, Neapolitan people, the most important cheese we have, is served in very different dishes. We have 2 kinds of mozzarella from Cilento, which is a little sweeter, and mozzarella from the Casertano.
Which is your favorite food?
Neapolitan food.
Yeah, but which dish did you serve here?
Here there is a pasta. It's called the pasta paccheri alla genovese. It's a very big rigatone, tube pasta, served with a sauce called alla genovese. I will tell you why it's called like that, which is made with pork ribs, white onions, little carrots, celery, white wine, and olive oil, cooked for about 4 or 5 hours until the onions they almost melt and become sweet. It's called alla Genovese from Genoa because in the 17th century the sailor from Genoa used to come to Napoli and stay by the port and start to cook and drink and cook. And of course poor cuisine, poor ingredients, porks, onions, keep cooking, and they start drinking, get drunk, so almost forget that it was cooking. And the Neapolitan people, they tasted this sauce made with pork and onions and they loved it. And of course we put on the pasta. So we called pasta alla Genovese because it was made by the sailors from Genoa.
I have to ask this question. You have 3 restaurants.
Yes, sir.
You know food, and yet you're skinny. Now, I would think that with all of these great things, you'd be fat.
Well, I think that if you eat good and you eat the right dishes with the right ingredient products, you don't get fat. We are very careful what we buy. We try to privilege ingredients that they are organic, that they grow in the right way, in the classic way, you know. And I'm pretty sure, and that if you eat in the right way, the right food, and you eat at the Gattopardo or at the Leopard at Desertist, at Mozzarella Vino, you won't be skinny like us.
He's not a salesman at all. But thank you very, very much.
My pleasure.
You are a remarkable fellow, and these restaurants are really remarkable too, but you have to see them. So when you come to New York City, call, and it really is an experience of not only eating, but the atmosphere and all the stories. And of course, if you ever catch him, just to listen to him talk with the Italian accent is enough of a treat. Thank you very, very much. Always.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful places.
Grazie.
I have the souvenirs. We'll see you here. I'll be upstairs at the door. I'll be waiting for you.
Around Town with Henry Dormann will return in a moment.
Life, it never stops moving. Getting from here to there. Managing long hours at work. Juggling a busy home. You need a bank that keeps up. That's Chemung Canal Trust Company. Bank online. Bank with our mobile app. Deposit a check with your smartphone. Open an account at Chemung Canal and bank with us anywhere, anytime. Chemung Canal Trust Company. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.
I'm Renata Steele, the news director and anchor at WENY TV News. This is home for me. I grew up in this area. I went to college here. I got married here. I own my home here. And having my family still here and those connections and those roots that I have here, I think give me a unique perspective and unique understanding about what is important to this community. This is home.
We now return to Around Town with Henry Dormann.
Did you ever wonder what it's like to fly in a private jet in all kinds of wonderful weather and wonderful places? There's a fellow that can solve all these problems, and it's very, very, I wouldn't say cheap, but very, very worthwhile. This is David Brimmer of Bliss Aviation, and he has a new system that you ought to look into, because I like to save money, you like to save money, but we need to get to some places where we need to do business quicker. So take a tune in, but take a pencil and make a note of how to contact him, because he is one of the outstanding leaders in the field. And my first question is, why should people charter or do business with you? What makes you different with all these other ones that you hear about all the time?
Well, Bliss.
You're going to take my microphone.
I was going to take the microphone.
Take the microphone. Go ahead. This is an informal thing. We have a lot of fun.
BlissJet is a unique product, and the word unique is overused, but it truly is. It is the only option available to buy a single seat on a private jet from New York to London. There are 30 opportunities a day to buy a seat on an airliner between the two cities, but we're offering travel in a fashion that most of our customers are accustomed to, which is to travel privately, and they do so within the United States, and they may do so in Europe or in the United Kingdom. But most people turn to the airlines when they travel between New York and London, and we propose to offer an option that is superior to airline travel.
What kind of planes do you use?
We're going to be using Gulfstreams and Falcon jets and Global Expresses.
And will the interior of the planes be the same as the private jets we read about now and see now and use now?
Oh yes, absolutely. And plenty of room. The service will be superior. You can choose your catering. You know, we're not going to tell you what to eat or drink. You tell us what you want. And on a typical journey, door to door, from New York to London, you're going to save an average of 4 hours per leg. Not since Concorde retired has there been an option that reduced the travel time between the two cities to that extent.
What's the cost?
The cost is $10,995 each way, which is comparable to a full-fare business or first-class ticket on the airlines. So it's not inexpensive, and I don't minimize the cost, but it's a good value when you consider your time and the quality of your travel. The cumbersome security procedures that exist at the airports for our own benefit are streamlined on BlissJet. You only have to show up to the airport 30 minutes before departure. So there's much less wasted time, and you're treated as a very valued customer. So presumably that will mean that when you arrive, you'll be in a much better condition to do better business and to make your trip more productive.
Which of all these wonderful planes do you like the most? There's the Gulfstream, which is kind of the granddaddy of them all. And then there's Global Express, which to me was a very modern, all the whistles and music you could have in a plane, the Global Express has. Which do you like the most? This is nice. Now you're doing the interview, see, with the microphone back and forth. We're going to get along very well. We're going to get along very well. Can you hear me all right? Good. He says he can hear us. Go ahead.
That's like asking.
It's a very informal interview, but after all, they're the ones that are going to take advantage of all this.
They are, and it's like asking me to choose which of my children I prefer. They're all beautiful airplanes, and I have a positive feeling about each of them. And I've flown on each of them. I just. Oh, how to choose. I love the G550. It's a stunning airplane. It's a modern airplane. The Falcon 900 EX and 7X are incredible machines. and the Global Express has that long cabin with all those windows, I'd be hard-pressed to choose a favorite. I think anytime you fly privately, it's a privilege and something to enjoy and savor. So I'm gonna respectfully decline to answer, because it's if you offer me any of those options and you had all three lined up on the ramp at the same time, I'd be very hard-pressed to choose which to fly on.
I flew one time, thank you for the mic, I flew one time on a Global Express that had inside configuration with a full bedroom, with a full king-sized bed. Are there any things like that that you can use and pay a little extra for through Bliss?
At this point, no. Our next phase of growth will have larger airplanes, and one of the airplanes we're looking at has a full bedroom, but you can't give everybody a full bedroom. So it's for of the privileged few who are on the airplane, the privileged one would have the bedroom, so that would be difficult.
I'd pay extra for it.
The thing about New York to London is it's not long enough for most people to want that kind of accommodation. If we were going to Asia or the Middle East, I think that might be more demand. But it will be an option on future flights.
I'm curious to know what the next step is for Bliss. You also have other planes available. I remember I flew on one of your planes, and it was a smaller plane because it was a very short trip. But is that part of Bliss too?
It's not part of Bliss. That's Altius Aviation, which we're associated with, and which offers.
You own everything, don't you?
No, I have an arrangement with Altius, but I'm not directly tied to their day-to-day operation. What's next for Bliss would be to look at additional cities, but before we looked at additional cities, we would want to master London. So we would look at increasing the frequency from one round trip a week to additional round trips. We would look at larger aircraft as well. And we may look at some leisure destinations too, because we think that the market for individually ticketed seats on private jets has a future. And it's just a question of determining where people want to go most. And the team that we have at Bliss understands the private jet passenger and the travel patterns. So we have, I think, the brain power to figure that out.
One of the things in private jets is, where do you take off and where do you land? Where do you take off in New York, and do you land at Heathrow or Gatwick, or where?
We don't land in Heathrow or Gatwick. Gatwick is too far out, and Heathrow is too complicated because of limited parking space and very limited arrival slots. So we're going to Stansted Airport outside of London. There are about 7 airports in the Greater London area, and we explored each of them and their pluses and minuses. And Stansted is the closest drive, aside from London City Airport, which is very restricted. It's a beautiful airport, and it's very convenient. But there are limitations on what you can do in and out of it because of the limited operating hours and short runway. Stansted is the shortest drive to Canary Wharf, which is the London equivalent of our Wall Street. And we expect a lot of customers will be headed to Canary Wharf.
From New York?
We'll be taking off from New York. Our plan is to go from LaGuardia. And not since the 1940s, when the Pan Am Clippers started service from the first Pan Am Clipper from LaGuardia Airport was to Europe. So we're restoring a great tradition to LaGuardia Airport of intercontinental air travel.
Thank you very much. Let me shake a hand, because this is the hand that's going to put me on a plane. I can't wait to go to London.
I can't wait to have you.
Try it. I'm going to give you a report of what happens and what this is like, but I have a feeling it's going to be fantastic. Thanks a million.
Thank you.
You're watching WENY HD.